All right. What's up, y'all? Yikes. He moved it. He made noise. It wasn't his voice. All right. So we are on 1/11. Not the date. That's the 25th of April, 2025. This is episode 111 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. All four sides. Welcome. Okay. We will do the intro. I'll talk about each of the four sides of the company. We'll talk about where clothing sits. And then we'll get into this discussion, episode 111 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The only thing we have. Okay, we'll get into it. Let me grab this guitar. I'm a nylon string guitarist with a radius somewhere around half size, and this is not one of those, but this is what I'm using for the time being. So I'm being grateful to be able to, okay? And I wonder if there's something I can play, like maybe at least a snippet of a. We'll play, and it's been a while, but we'll play a little bit of my song Horizons. I wrote this, and let me just kind of feel it out, because I don't normally play steel strings or this size of guitar, and this thing might be out of tune. It's not ideal for what I say is ideal, and I'll get into that when I talk about one of the fourths of our company, okay? Let me just feel this out a little bit. I think it's out of tune, but driving, here we go. Driving all these horizons, I don't know if I'm the one driving. And then the next part's something like driving over mountainous scenery, got nothing but the dirt in me. Oh, yeah, the guitar is definitely out of tune. I haven't even sung in a while, but I'm glad I played that. Yeah, so there's four sides to us, right? Here on the podcast, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things, okay? We get into it, brother, and I love it. I love it so much. I love getting humbled by that, because, like, it was pretty darn good, but also it wasn't quite on tempo. I wasn't quite on key, right? The guitar is not quite in tune. I love it, dude. I'm so grateful that I played that. Normally, I'll just play like a little bit of something on the guitar, a few seconds of just finger picking, usually is what it is. Past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, but man. All right, so another fourth of our company is In the Image Clothing Company, the main side, where it all started and really what our focus is physically for the human body. Keyword, allowing it to work, okay? We can only allow it to do what God designed it to. It's a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, okay? The human being. And actually, the human body is what this episode is about, very specifically. And so, yeah, there's a center line to it. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and the jaw, which naturally stabilizes the entire body. And it all has to stay in the center, on an earth with gravity, pulling us straight down. We have no say over that. And then what we do, though, sometimes is place things that are imbalanced onto us, and we call them clothing. And so then those imbalances go straight to our bodies. We have feet arches, opposing the center line on each side, gripping inward, keeping us vertical, okay? So we address clothing, okay? The human body is about the skeletal system. The fat content changes, and the muscle mass changes. The skeletal system has a neutral joint in every part of the body. There's a neutral that it has to reside in always, unless being used to do something different, and then it always comes back to its only neutral, every part of the human being, okay? and K. I might say that quite a bit in this, and I've been saying that. The body only works how it does. It only works one way. Muscles only contract. Stretch within clothing goes the opposite direction of the only way muscles could ever work. There's only one way the body works, okay? We hit it so bold, I want to just scream at people with that, because that's what will help you, okay? There's only one way the body works. There is only one way the body works, and there is only one way the human body will ever work for every human to ever live. So I'm going to hit that as hard as I just did before we get into any further discussing what this episode is, okay? And I will also give some context. Under all that we are, as in the Image Clothing Company, as of today's date, the 25th of April, 2025, we've given every piece of context you would possibly need through our content placed publicly and free for you to know how to allow your body to work, okay? It will only ever do what God designed it to do. You can't place things onto it that are altering its only working positions and expect it to do anything besides what you're experiencing. Pain, deeply ingrained scar tissue and patternings, and damage to your body. So we show free modifications within clothing to allow it to not alter the body. Okay, that's this episode. All we have, and the title is literally worded, the only thing that we have, except I think the that is not in there. The only thing we have, okay? The only thing that we have, that is what it is, okay? Is our bodies. My eyes, I'm rubbing my eyes, and I'll give some explanation on why. Because I've talked about the nose often. Things that we call posture, it's a joke. There's no such thing as posture. The body's a mechanical machine with neutrals because it can go both directions, like the wrist, like the hips, like the shoulders. There's only a neutral that has to be resided within in all the body, all parts of it, okay? I made a video this week under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, the one that I am discussing now as far as which fourth of our company I am speaking on. And I titled it, How Blowing the Nose Affects Body Mechanics, okay? And on the right side of our nose, just as the right side of the entire human being, is only, really, just about, only the side that you need to even focus on at all. Because of that video, under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company's context, okay? The right-handed world. We live on an earth that God designed. Onto it, we've placed a man-made world. And it's right-handed because 85% of the population are, give or take, in this time period, as of me currently speaking, okay? So there's a center line, as we discussed, and it has to be there. And when we have things that are right-handed, like clothing patterns themselves, when clothing is mass-produced and shipped all over the earth, so most humans on the entirety of our planet are wearing the same designs, and even if they're not, still, if your clothing doesn't fit you very well, oversized clothing, being such a damaging imbalance in itself, will fall toward your dominant side, being your right for 85%, give or take, of the population of the earth at this time period. So what will then happen is the whole right side of your body will have half of its rotations, being internal rotation, taken away, okay? At the shoulder, for example, internal and external rotation from the neutral. At the hip, we have both internal and external rotation from the neutral. And that happens on both sides of the body with the center line in the middle of that. Or listen to this, right? With the center line in the center of that. So the body's the only thing we have, by the way. If you haven't caught on yet, that's why episode 111, this one here of In The Image Clothing Company Podcast, is titled The Only Thing That We Have. Okay. Because it is. So here's the whole thing I'm saying about right-handedness is my nose as almost every human on the entire earth will experience just about exactly the same as I am, it has scar tissue that has built up over many years of existing on an earth, wearing oversized clothing personally, tying shoes unevenly personally, dreaded collar seams personally, all the things and anything and everything, just being right-handed alone personally. We breathe. The nose is in the center of the human being. The trachea is as well, which is the tube that air, oxygen, goes from the opening of the nostrils here in the nose, through the sinuses, down the trachea, and into our lungs to expand and contract to breathe. Okay, every breath you ever take, if your body is imbalanced off to its right side because you are right-handed, or because you're living on the same earth that everyone is, because that's the case, no matter what, for us human beings here, okay, the right side of the nose gets scar tissue built up in it, and then damage to the entire body. So I've been breaking up the scar tissue in my nose, as you are seeing now, if you're watching in both video plus audio form of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. If you're in audio only, now you know. This is available in 2 different forms, okay? So, yes. Then the skin moves on the face, right? Go check out the video of what I just said under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. But yes, In the Image Clothing Company clothing is something we will have available, made out of 100% natural materials, staying centered and fitting correct. That is how we allow, keyword, the human body to work through what we will have available for you to purchase. If you'd like to, do all that you can to get it in your size. Oversized clothing in itself is such a damaging imbalance, as I said. But yes, there's another fourth of us, In the Image Clothing Company Music, where I show sizings and setups of guitars to do similar to everything that we do physically for the human being, allow the hands, in this case, to stay unaltered. The hands are essentially the shoulders, as the feet are essentially the hips. The body's only all one. It has to stay activated as a whole. Anywhere any of it goes, all of it does. You can't drag around dead weight. You don't go to a play and watch it work when somebody doesn't show up for a role in the play, because it just doesn't work, okay? The human body is just like that. So, yes, okay, another fourth of us is In the Image Clothing Company dogs. All things dogs. At least all the things that we do with dogs is what we do over there. In modern day, there's unnatural things, okay? Dog accessories, toys, collars, harnesses, leashes, those things being the things that are placed onto the dogs, those can be very imbalanced, but just the unnatural materials and things that are going into dogs' mouths, dehydrated kibble as well, a lot of unnatural stuff is happening to our canines, and we address those things. The whole goal and slogan for that fourth of the company is allowing dogs, although that's not how it's worded, letting dogs stay natural, okay? Me, Evan Strong, I will personally be breeding purebred standard poodles. So, stick around. If you want a poodle, if you want a poodle, right? I mean, that's kind of a conditional thing, because depending on what part of the earth you're on and when our litters are being born, right? But potentially, maybe you could end up with one of our puppies, or if you just want to come on to In the Image Clothing Company dogs and check out what we do, then there you go. Yes, okay, clothing for everybody. It has to sit in the same location. Everybody on the face of the earth, either of the only 2 genders, any of the heights you could possibly be, all of the time periods that could exist, any part of this same earth that we're on, no matter what and who and where and how and whatever, right? If you're a human being, pants need to be entirely above the hips, so there's no restriction to the pelvis. The waistband angle has to be slightly higher in the front than the rear. The core muscles have to just always work because they're the center of the body, and they're only there because that's their job. And that's the only way we can allow that to be the case with pants on. And it's great to wear pants. Tops that we wear, there's seams on top of our shoulders that have to be behind the peak of our shoulders. Our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just the only location mechanically this human body is designed to actually operate in. and it will never do anything else. The edge seams of our tops need to be right at the edges of the functionality of the shoulder socket, okay? You catching on to a theme? A theme? If this is your first time hearing anything about In the Image Clothing Company, then yeah, I want to make it clear. Are you catching on? Clothing is the cause to human beings' physical pain, damage, chronic patterning, scar tissue, inability to breathe or stand or sit naturally or normally. The reason why people are drinking so much liquid and eating so much and still feeling hungry and thirsty. The reason why people have internal system problems in their bodies, it's actually because structurally their skeletal system isn't allowed to hold their body and its only workings. So even internal organs are having problems because things are being pinched and squozen and cut off and not allowed to just work. I mean, it's the actual truth, okay? We discuss eternal, unchanging truths here that apply to every human to ever live under In the Image Clothing Company. It could never change, and you don't have to believe us, but we don't have a single opinion as far as like what we actually talk about, okay? We just look at the body as it is, look at the body as a whole. Specialists can never get you anywhere because the rest of your body is the problem. Pain and damage within parts of the body, when I say the word damage, I mean symptoms in parts of the body are almost never coming from that part of the body. It's something else within the body, and then compensation is trying to happen, and the part that's compensating is what's usually painful, and it's not its fault at all. It's trying to make up for work that the understudy didn't show up for in the play, and you're sitting there in the audience and you're just like wanting to leave because it's just so terribly not working. The human body, okay? It only works one way. I'm gonna hit it, and I'm gonna hit it. I'm gonna just slam it, dude. What I'm gonna do is actually pull out my rocket launcher, brother, and I'm going to just lock it onto the target, and I will just say, hey, let me blast this so hard. Just the fact and the only truth that the human body only will ever work one way. It's a mechanical machine. It has to obey the laws, dude. God's laws. And gravity's one of those. I mean, the body will only ever work one way. And I've hit it, and I've hit it, and I've hit it. And that's what we've said since the very founding. That's the reason for In the Image Clothing Company. But for the sake of this video, for this audio clip, if you're an audio only, for the sake of episode 111 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled The Only Thing That We Have, I'm going to hit it so hard. You will never train the human being to do anything. And I don't have a single opinion on that, nor could I. No opinion I could have. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled that. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled that. Running. And I debunked the myths. Okay, there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Running. Workouts. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Workouts. So I just want to give some context, but there's 111 episodes as of this one, okay? There's just about 200 videos. I think it's 180 something on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company where I go into such depth of the anatomy and only workings of the human being. We don't have opinions here. But you've been told opinions if you have heard people tell you how your body works and it hasn't worked after them telling you how it should. No, there's only one way the body works, and it's not something we could ever get it to do. No human to ever live. Not me either. It's not like I have the answers. I just know that I couldn't. And I look at it as it is. Hinges, levers, rotations, functions, mechanically, gravity, center line, two sides opposing the human being. There you go. Breathing. Breathing's huge. Okay. I mean, this is the body. It's about operations. It's not about anything else. I mean, it's just a physical. That was my jaw popping. I felt it. I felt it coming on. Yeah, that's what I mean, right? You go to the chiropractor and they push your body into some location where they think that maybe it should be, and then if it doesn't stay there, well, what have they done? There's only one neutral. There's only one way the body could ever work. Where are you trying to push it into and pop it into and move it into if it's not going to just stay there once you've done it? Why would you ever go back unless something happened in between? Okay, we debunk myths because we speak truth that will never change, and I could not have an opinion on. And so I get bold like this, and I get so bold, okay? All right, so we finished talking about where clothing sits. 2 prerequisites that we have under In the Image Clothing Company. Conditional. There's not always ropes that we weave across our feet. We call those shoelaces as human beings. And there's not always tags that are nowadays placed within our clothing. That's only decades old as of today's date back, okay? Tags either have to be removed or your body's being damaged. Period and done. Ropes can only be weaved one way across the mechanics of a foot with 20-something bones in it, a lot of joints and operations and muscles, and only one neutral, straight out from the pinky toe forward. And the ankle then can be neutral with the arches gripping inward. And then traveling up, the rest of the body can, as long as we are intentional about the things in between. The feet and the tip of the head and the tips of the fingers, right? Nails on the toes and the fingers, all the way to the very tip of them, supporting them. That's why they're there. Cut flat on the tips, and you can cut the rounded corners. Okay, you can hear it if you can hear it. My almost disgust, but out of love. Like, don't listen to people. Don't listen to me. Don't believe me. Truth is truth. It manifests itself to you. You do what we do under In the Image Clothing Company, your life will change. You don't have to believe nothing. You got to give it a try, and you'll never go back. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Okay, every human to ever live. Every time period, any time period, all the periods of time, period. Check that out. I'm a lyricist. Yikes. All right, so yes, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique, right? How we weave ropes across the feet without altering them. Golly. Ideally round, ideally no give, right? Taut, stiff, shoelaces, right? Tying them evenly over toward the center line of the human being on both feet, because there's 2 feet opposing the center line. So it has to be exactly opposite because they are. Okay. There we go. We've covered it. And I did it thorough, as I do. But this one specifically thorough because of what the title is. Episode 111 of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. The only thing that we have. All right. Imagine I'm just standing in front of your face, pointing my finger at you and saying that. That's how I want this episode to come across. So if I sound like you gotta, like, you know, I don't know, try to restrain me, good. Because I want it to come across that bold for the sake of how it's the only truth that there is about this, ever. Okay. The only thing we have in this life is our bodies, our physical human flesh. That's it. We've talked about it. I've alluded to it. I've even discussed it pretty thorough. Okay. Past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. But I want to say it so clear in this. I want to make a whole episode here because this is just the case. People put importance on things, all right? And if it's not their bodies, well, what are you going to do? You like to drive motorcycles? Probably calling it riding, huh? You out there riding motorcycles rather than driving them. I do too. I used to have motorcycles, right? I had a race bike. I'm going to shout it out. It was a Yamaha YZ250F. Full-on race bike. Off-road only. Motorcycle, all right? I loved it. It was fun. Okay. You like to ride mountain bikes? Hey, I used to do that so much. I loved it at the time. Yeah. Okay. I used to do flips, brother. Front flips, back flips, side flips, Websters, gainers. On trampolines, I throw corkscrews and back flip 360s, front flip 360s. Right? It's fun to do all these things, but you only have one body. Okay, it's the only thing you have in this life. I don't care what you want to care about. In fact, I don't, just in any aspect of everything and every end of anything and all the things that couldn't be something I don't want to talk about or do care about or might think that could be. And if I don't care, period, about anybody else and their cares, nor should you care about mine. That's why it felt a little bit strange for me, episode 110 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, to title it "I Feel Like Myself Again," and I just sat there and talked about myself because I don't do that normally. I speak about myself in the ways that I speak out of personal example. Check that out. What I meant is personal experience, speaking from example to then help people, right? But I don't normally just sit there and like talk about myself. So the point is, I don't care what you care about, but no matter what you ever try to care about, whether it's for the rest of your life or for 5 minutes until you find something else you might care about more, but it's a toss up, so you're trying to figure out which one to do, and then you're doing both of them, and then neither of them are actually being fully done. Whatever it could be, nothing can be cared about as far as like a thing in this life more than your physical body. Okay? Because you can't do anything without your physical body. In this life, you're placed onto a physical earth. All right? Yeah. Because your physical body is also your physical brain. Intellect of a human being is just synapses. It's just electronic signals of what's placed inside of your human's flesh's skull, right? Which is the bone of your head that encapsulates the brain matter. Yeah, it's physical. It's your physical body, your mind. Okay? So you won't be able to think about things, and you won't be able to physically do anything if you don't have a physical body. And so then you're back to where you were before you're placed onto this earth, a spirit child of God. And you still are that within what you are placed inside of, the physical vessel of the human being. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled As a Vessel. Okay. You can't care about anything else as far as like in this life more than your physical body. Because it's like when I talked about, man, there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled, You Don't Need a Girlfriend If You Won't Have a Wife. And I said in there, you don't even get to have any opinion on thinking that you can have like same-sex marriages, because you couldn't even be here to have an opinion on it if a man and a woman, meaning opposite sex, opposite genders, had gotten together to birth you. You wouldn't even be here to have an opinion. So you can't. It's invalid. It's not something that you're entitled to because you wouldn't even exist to have it otherwise. Meaning otherwise as if like the truth wasn't true. The only truth that exists, which is just God himself, Jesus the Christ, apart from all of us. The thing that doesn't change, yesterday, today, and forever. Okay, so same thing with the human flesh. You have no place or any possible opinion to have on something to place importance on more than your physical body, because it's your physical being that has the opportunity to place importance on something. And if it's not there, then you just, right? Then there's nowhere to go. There's nothing that could ever be placed, because there'd have to be something to place the importance, being the human being, right? Your body's the utmost important thing. No opinion to have, right? No opinion, yep, right? Conviction. There's no opinion you could have on this. In the Image Clothing Company, we speak stuff only as long as we can until we get killed for it. I'm not kidding, too, because maybe, right? I'm fully aware that could be the outcome. And here's the whole point, though. People neglect their bodies. Okay, people look like a lump of flesh just like sacked onto a couch. Often. Sharpen your pitchforks even. but also your pitchforks, if you would like to. It's up to you, right? But I'm speaking truth. People look like they're just a big old lump of nothing sitting on something that's not real either. Artificial material couch that your body's just... And let me be very clear, I'm not being judgmental. What I'm saying is, if these things have come out of your lack of care for your own physical being, which is the only thing you have, and it's a gift from God, then it's your fault. I'm going to sit on that for a second. Like you guys are on your couch because you're not willing to even allow your body to work. Right? You can't be held accountable for what you don't know. If you've got things that are physically not allowing your body to operate the only way that it ever could, and it's stuff like what we talk about here, meaning it is, if you don't know these things, imbalances within clothing will alter every human being, always and forever. It's just a physical thing placed onto another physical thing. It's just going to alter it on an earth with physical laws, right? Gosh, dude, I mean, it's as real as it gets. And so what I'm saying is, it's your fault. If you know there's things you could do to address your body's physical ability to operate, and you're not doing them, it's 100% your fault. And you have to take accountability for it. Otherwise, you can sit there and complain all you want. You can go from doctor to doctor to doctor all you want and continually do the same things that are damaging your human flesh, and you're damaging your human flesh. So it's the only thing we have. Okay? The only thing that we have. The human body. And I threw it in there, but let's focus on that. It's a gift from God. And you realize that once your best friend dies, or your mother dies, or your grandma dies, or your daughter dies, or your son dies, your husband dies, your boyfriend dies, whoever it is, your girlfriend died. And maybe this happens, so I'm not trying to bring up like wounds, but also if it happened, it happened, right? And that's really how you're going to feel better about it. Is like, oh, well, it did happen. Okay. Right? And then turn to God. Not that you're not already, because maybe you are. But I'm just saying, right? People die. God did. And he rose again. Resurrected 3 days later. Here's the thing. This is truth, right? I'm not trying to make some claim. I'm not trying to push a religion. I made a video today under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled Keeping Things Off the Spine. And in the outro, meaning the ending of that video, I said, what, you're not religious, so you don't want to come to In The Image Clothing Company podcast? Well, guess what? I'm not religious either. And I mean it. I don't believe in anything. And I mean it. So don't believe me. Please. Also, leave me alone, right? Pitchforks and the human flesh of Evan Strong, right? Bro, one day, you guys are going to be like, this dude just was cranking out podcast episodes. Next thing you know, he got killed. Maybe, but I'm speaking truth, all right? Except for the times that I'm not, because I'm not always correct. But truth is always truth. I'm just relaying things that are apart from me, right? So, my hands are in the air, right? Surrendered. Don't shoot, right? Please. I'm so real with this in the sense of just like how real it is what I mean. Like, this is as real as it gets, you guys. We only have one body, okay? And God went before us in all things as our perfect example. And he died physically, his flesh, Jesus Christ, our God himself. And he got he rose again, okay? The human beings, all of us, we have the opportunity through Jesus Christ to be resurrected after we die. But that's why, we got to be okay with just talking about death. And we love people, dude, when we love people. And that's good, okay? But people do die. And our lives don't end when somebody else's does. I'm not religious. This is nuts. This is nuts to be able to say like this. And as grounded in it as I am. I'm not trying to make some kind of episode to make some kind of silly thing. I didn't read some book we call the Holy Bible and pretend to know some kind of thing and want to press it onto people. No, there's no opinion to the stuff that we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company. The only thing we have is our bodies. And through Jesus Christ, we can be resurrected after we die. Meaning, everything will be brought back to its proper and perfect frame. Who we were in this life when we died, and the intentions we had on treating our gift, being the human being that we are, the body of flesh and bone that God gave us, if we have treated that well and tried to do good things with it, as in just allowed it to be what God made it as, we will be resurrected and he will perfect our bodies. But if we went through this life and you're just not taking care of the only thing you have, and when it's worded like that, it's like, holy cow, right? If you haven't seen that, that is the truth. Because you've built a business, right, for 40 years, great. All of a sudden it goes bankrupt or whatever, and it's no longer a thing. It doesn't even exist because it never did. It's just a concept. Like In the Image Clothing Company. It's a concept, even if it's the biggest business on the earth at one point, or the biggest company on the earth at one point, or the biggest community on the earth at one point, the biggest familial place on the earth at one point, okay? No matter what, it's just a concept. It's a place where information is placed so we can understand what this place that we've been placed onto, being the earth, is, okay, and the human body and how it works. It's just a concept. We just talk about things here as they are, and anyone could talk about them, and we just happen to label it In the Image Clothing Company. Whoa, right? Life is essentially just a concept. And the only way we're experiencing life is through the physical body. It's all we've got, dude. You don't have a body and you don't have a physical life. You don't have any way to experience this earthly existence as a human being if you're not being a human. I mean, this is as obvious, as literal, as real, as only as it is, right? This is it. This is the truth. You only got one body, and your body's the only thing that you have. Episode 111 of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. So people put importance on other things, and because of those things, they'll tear their bodies up. That's why I mentioned motorcycles. Because you can love riding motorcycles, but you have to, and I can tell you that, do all that you can to keep your body, being the thing that is riding the man-made motorized machine, safe. You've got to keep your body safe. And the word safe really just means allowed to operate the only way that it ever could. Otherwise, you're on life support in a hospital bed, and you're breathing through a machine, and they're pumping food through your body with a tube, rather than you being able to chew it and swallow yourself, right? Somebody else or something else artificial is doing it for you, right? Otherwise, the ability to walk isn't there any longer because you've broken both of your lower legs and they had to be cut off. Okay, the body's the only thing you have because your motorcycle career ends once you can't ride anymore because it's you that's riding the bike. It's not the motorcycling that's happening. It's the human flesh moving across the earth on a motorized machine. Okay, the body's the only thing you have. It's the only thing that I've got. It's designed in the image of God. Okay, so the body's the only thing that we have. This is the thing, and that's the thing. Okay, and there you go. So yeah, In the Image Clothing Company, it's not a place, it's not an opinion, it's not something to try to want to maybe if put some importance on. It's not a diet to try for a month and a half and then go back to eating whatever you want that's artificial and damaging your body. There's only natural, so In the Image Clothing Company's goal is natural, okay? There's only allowing the body to work, and so that's our phrase, okay? Yeah, when the body has anything that happens to it and human beings try to conjure up something to aid in it, all you are able to ever do is try to get the body back to its only way that it would work if it was never altered. Okay? You break a leg or amputate a leg. Yeah, sure, you can place a prosthetic leg onto it, but you haven't invented something. You've only done all that you can to get your body back as close as you can to the only way that it could ever work, which is God's design. Okay? Anything ever that happens to the human being, all we can ever do is get it back to God's design. That's it. So in modern day, there's a lot of technology, and people think they're coming up with things to enhance the human being. And that's false. And hear this correct, impossible. You're going to alter it, and complications will come if you do. Period, and done, no matter what. Even placing clothing onto the human being that's slightly imbalanced. You've altered God's design. And now it's just not going to work. And there's no opinion you could have on it to try to get it to work any other way. This is the only thing that we have. Okay? Your 40 girlfriends and your $40 trillion that you got from a business and your 40,000 mile per hour vehicle that you got, right? All these things, whatever, and who cares, right? Your 40 mansions that are in the mountains, I don't even care. All these things, they don't even exist. I mean, they can be taken from you in an instant. And you remain. The human flesh, the body, the gift from God, the only thing you ever have in this life. Everything else is gone. When there's a forest fire, all your 40 houses in the mountains are gone. When your girlfriends that you had find another man that they want to be with instead of you, they're all gone. Right? Every hypothetical and anything and all the things, whatever. Your 40 billion, trillion, and quadrillion dollars, right? Whatever you could say. The market crashes and they're gone. I mean, the money doesn't even have the same value anymore, and that doesn't make sense, but that's because there's no such thing as money. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, though, titled Money Hungry, and I talked about how money is just a concept. It's not actually real, and that is the truth. So all the hypotheticals, anything, everything, and all the other things, and all your cars that went 40,000 miles per hour wrecked, let's say. Okay, but your body's still there if you're still here, because that is you, and the only thing that you ever are, because it's the only thing that we have. Okay, no opinion. So in the Image Clothing Company, guess what? We speak nothing but truth. And then all of a sudden down the road, sometime I say something that's like actually an opinion, and I'm like pushing it so hard, I'm like, oh shoot. I catch myself on it later, somebody calls me out for it or whatever. Yeah, I'm imperfect, by the way. Sinful by nature. But we really only talk about truth here, okay? Not perfectly, but that's all we're doing here. That's the only point of In the Image Clothing Company. Truly. And check that out. I didn't mean to use that word after saying that all we talk about is truth, but that is the truth, okay? And we're wrong sometimes. And how does that work? Stick around, right? I mean, it's as real as it gets, bro. Yeah, you only have one body. And not only that, but it's the only thing that you have, okay? It's the only thing that I have. And we're promised it as well, right? Because, as I've mentioned in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, as it's clearly laid out in Scripture, the Book of Mormon, the Holy Bible, true doctrine. Don't believe me on nothing, brother, but everything will be restored to its perfect and proper frame. And so that means it's promised, the human body, not only for this life, because that kind of seems obvious, right? Because you've got your body until you don't once you die. But no, it's promised to be resurrected. But you can be resurrected into an eternal hell or into God's presence. Perfection. Okay. And if you slump in your human flesh across the couch, not taking care of it, and it's things that are your fault that you know you could improve on, even if there's just one or two things that you know you could improve on. When I say the word improve, I just mean being intentional about taking care of the only thing you've been given and could ever have in this life, okay? Then it's your fault. Yes, it's your fault. Is that harsh? Good, right? What did I say at the beginning? Something like that, right? Yeah, I want this to sound like my fingers pointing you at the face, right? I do, man, because it's the only thing you have. People place importance on all sorts of stuff, and then they can't get to it because they can't walk from things that are their fault because they didn't take care of their body. Okay, you see what I mean? Place importance on whatever you want, but it'll leave. Meaning it could, but your body can't. And have you still be alive. It's the only thing you have, the only thing you could ever place importance on, okay? Ever. For every human to ever live, right? As I say, like so boldly, because it's the truth. So, yeah, all right? And there's been plenty of times in my, look, yeah, okay, let's talk about this, brother. I didn't take care of my body in a lot of times, right? And this is what I mean. That's why I say stuff like, man. Yeah, we talk about truth. The whole point is, it doesn't matter about whatever and who cares about all the things that anyone could blank and blah and blue, okay? The point is, God. God. The point is God. That's as real as it gets. I just got convicted as all get out. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I started to say right there that there has been times in my life when I had not taken care of my body so well. And that's kind of not even the case. That's why I got so convicted. That's why I couldn't even speak. Because, no, I mean, I've tried very, very, very hard to take care of my body through my life. There's been a lot of stuff that I've done that's pretty extreme. Like some of the things I discussed at the beginning. But yeah, no, I've actually taken care of my body. There's been so many people around me, dude, and they just lump their human flesh across the couch, as I've worded it. Okay, it's disgusting. And I've told them to their face verbally, you disgust me with these actions that you're doing. Because yes, it's disgusting. We've been given a gift by God. And some people just throw it away. And then complain about it. And blame things all around them for their actions. Things that are their fault. And that's why I couldn't even say it. I was prepared. I was so ready to own up to everything about, yeah, well, I'm just as human as everybody else. And that's the truth. But I have taken care of my body throughout my life. It's been through a lot, but I've always had the intention to really, really take care of it. I mean, I'd go places, dude, and I'd put little napkin pieces or tissue pieces in my ears because it was loud. And it was a place that other people would be like, what, this is loud to you? And I'd be like, yeah, dude, because I wanted to take care of my ears. Okay, it's things like that. I have actually taken care of my body. And this is where I said earlier, like, I don't care what you care about. On the other end, it's the same thing. You don't got to care if I did or do or don't, and I'm not trying to be all like, high and mighty about, I'm so good at it, and so why aren't you? But I was totally prepared to say, like, well, I've totally damaged my body in all these ways, but I really haven't. There's been things that have happened that have caused damage to my body, but I have actually been so careful to take care of my body. And a big part of it is because I've seen the disgustment around me. I mean, it's disgusting. looking at people, and they'll be sitting there and they'll just shove food into their faces. Oh my gosh. They just slump their body around. They can't even breathe. And again, if you don't know something, you can not be held accountable for it. But if you know there's anything that you need to do to improve what is happening, and you're not doing it, that's your fault. Period and done. Look at the wrists, brother. And that's for me as well, right? If there's things that I know deep rooted inside me that I'm doing that are damaging me and I'm not ceasing them, that's my fault. We gotta take some accountability, dude. You gotta stop placing blame on other people for your own problems. You gotta stop claiming that people won't help you by doing things for you so that you can then continue to damage your own being. No, that's hypocrisy. Oh, no, it's just disgusting. I mean, you're throwing your life away. You only get one, and your quote-unquote life, as we've discussed, is your physical body. You don't have a life without your physical body. There's no way. That's what life is. That's what it means. When we talk about having life, we're talking about the human being that we are. And the quote-unquote definition, meaning if we're going to just discuss it as it is, of a human being is a body of flesh and bone. Okay? You got to take some accountability. It's the only thing you have. And like I'm saying, and like I'm saying, and I'm going to say it a third time, like I'm saying, and like I started this with when I said I'm going to hit it so hard, there's only one way the human body will ever work, and it's no opinion I could possibly have. There's no opinion I could possibly have. It's a mechanical machine placed on a rock in space. There's only one neutral to the joints of the machine. There's only one way it works. And it just would, unless there was any reason that it wouldn't. And if we have clothing on us that is not allowing the body to work, that's the cause. Period and done. There's no option to want to care about it, to try it, maybe. There's none of those things. No, and no. It is the cause, dude. And I'm not all hyped up on something. Episode 100, only 11 episodes back from this one, of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is titled Laying a Foundation, because we are just getting started. Yet, and truthfully, as I said earlier within this here episode, 111 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, titled The Only Thing That We Have, I've given all the context you could need to allow your human flesh to operate. As of today's date. An accumulation of all that In the Image Clothing Company is, as of now. From the founding till now. Okay? So, this is what I'm talking about. Okay? This is the beauty of it. This is what In the Image Clothing Company is. We would never need to make a single video in addition to what we already have. And if every single human being on the earth came in contact with what we've documented as of today's date, let me be very clear. The 25th of April, 2025. Not that it's like, I finally made the last one today that you would need, but I just mean, yes, we have given everything that you would need as of today's date. Period and done. To allow your physical body to mechanically work, meaning just to limit all restriction that we can, and it'll just operate because it's designed to work. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled that. God made this thing to work. It's like a bison is supposed to walk across the earth, otherwise it dies. Right? So is a wolf, and a dog, and a cat. A fish is supposed to swim, otherwise it dies. Right? Don't agree with me, don't believe me, but this is the truth. Okay, a butterfly is going to either fly or it dies. Okay, The human flesh is either going to work or it just doesn't. But the difference is human beings can try to get other human beings to do things for them. And then we have things like hospice, right? Like somebody else doing all the things for you. Somebody else wiping your own bottom after you go to the bathroom. Because you won't take accountability for things that are your fault. In the cases that that's the case, okay? Because that often happens. The reason people are so taken care of physically by other human beings, as far as physical things done for them, because they can't do it themselves, the percentage of cases that is the human being's fault and they just haven't taken accountability for it, the percentage is extremely high, okay? And me, Evan Strong, knowing what I know because I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company and I have context to back it up, I'm not making some claim. I told you, right? I gave you quite an idea, at least, of all the content we have up until today's date that I have personally made. It's not about me, but I know what I'm talking about. This is the reason. The majority of the time is because people won't take accountability to take care of their only promised gift from God. Okay? If any one of the animals on the earth that exist just didn't do all that they could to survive, no other animal is going to come sit there and take care of them. They will just die. But then we've got self-centered human beings who will not take accountability for their own workings of their own self. I mean, you are your physical body. That is all you are as far as a human being. You're not going to be one if you're not a physical body of flesh. And if you're not taking care of it when there are things that you know, okay, then that's your fault. Hear it correct, right? When I say the phrase, condemn me for what I have said, oh, by all means. But don't hear this incorrect and think that I'm just saying people should know better, right? No. Hear what I have said, not what you are hearing. Because what I have said is the truth. In this episode 111 of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, okay? It's the only thing we've got, the human body. And it's your fault. If there's things you know of causing it to not work, and you're continuing to do those things, it's your fault. Take it to heart. I was seeing if my jaw would pop again. And in case you need a little bit of a reminder, or just, let me point you to something if you'd like to go see this. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast titled Willingness. I talked about all that I've had to go through in order to get my body back to the only way it could ever work, the way that God designed it. After all the alteration that's happened to it, that wasn't my fault, right? All the things that we don't know, but are still altering our bodies, that's not our faults by any means. Imbalanced clothing designs coming from the factory, and how would we know if we don't already that clothing would need to be addressed to get it balanced after we've purchased it to wear? You don't know if you don't know. I didn't know till I was 24 years old. That's last year from today's date. Okay. Yeah. We don't know what we don't know, and you cannot be held accountable for those things. But a lot of people just know, right? They're drinking things, they're eating things, they're just, gosh, dude, like I said earlier, putting importance on things that are not their body, so much so that they die. Okay? And it's their fault. Take it to heart. Get your pitchfork sharpened, right? Come after me about it. What's he saying? The truth. And it's harsh to those who don't want to believe it. But guess what? You don't got to believe it. Because whether you believe it or not, it's still happening. Truth is truth. You heard me say that? If not, go check out episode 2 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. That's the title of it. All right? It's the only thing we've got. The human body. And that's why I say, like, I couldn't express my gratitude enough for what this is in the Image Clothing Company. There's no conditions. Some things that people try to do to maybe benefit their body in some way that might work could possibly help somebody in some ways. And then somebody else, maybe it doesn't help at all. What we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company, all four sides. Unless you don't have a dog, I guess, then, right, In the Image Clothing Company, dogs, And, you know, I mean, there's conditions as far as certain things we talk about. If you're not even involved in those things, okay. But that's why I call the main side of In the Image Clothing Company the main side, because that's really what we are physically, is allowing the one and only thing that we all have to work, the human body. There's no conditions. Because here's the thing. I get, because but there might be people that don't think that I understand. Like, well, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, you're sitting there and telling us all this stuff so bold, but you have both of your legs and one of mine has been amputated, somebody says. So how are you going to tell me there's only one way to lace two shoes opposing the center line of the human being when I don't have 2 feet? Somebody might be saying. Okay, calm down, right? I know that I'm like telling my own hypothetical story to calm down, but I can see this happening, and I've seen this hypothetically happening since the founding. But I've made it very clear since the founding as well. The body just still has to do all that it can with what it has. You're still breathing. You have to stay centered to breathe. Your nose in itself is in the center. Your mouth is in the center as well. Those are the only inlets for oxygen to come into your lungs, through the trachea, which is also in the center as well. You have 2 lungs opposing the center. Okay, maybe you've got a collapsed lung. Well, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, you think you can sit there on the floor, make these podcast episodes, and be so bold and so right about something and call it truth when it's not, people are claiming. No, this is the truth. And they're sitting there with a collapsed lung like, my body isn't balanced. Well, you know what is? Gravity. Can I sit on that for a second? I know what I'm talking about here. And you do not have to care about Evan Strong. But the reason I'm talking about it, anything that we do under In the Image Clothing Company, is because it's undisputed and it applies to every human to ever live. Gravity's still going to pull you straight down. Regardless, if you're missing an arm, missing a leg, if for some reason you've only got one nostril and you're breathing imbalanced, or like we said about the lung, if you're paralyzed and you're in a wheelchair and you're like, well, then my legs don't even work. Why would I need to care about tying my shoes? Well, you ever wear a shirt sitting in that wheelchair? If it's the lower part of your body that's paralyzed, your shoulders still have to be in their only working position. Because the body's still a mechanical machine, even if part of it's not working. Then the rest of it that's there is already just struggling to try to make up for the stabilizing work that your legs cannot do, that happen even sitting within a wheelchair. And so now if you place a shirt on or any top with seams sitting in any location that your shoulders will never work in, yes, it applies to you as well. In the Image Clothing Company, all that we are here is undisputedly and absolutely universal and will never change. It couldn't. There's no opinion to this. So stick around. This is why I'm bold, by the way. And this is what I mean when I say those phrases. Well, that's why I say it in a silly way, but also I seriously could get killed for just speaking on things so bold, and people just, they don't know what's going on, so they want to get after me. And all I'm doing is telling them things that will undisputedly change their entire life from that point forward. If they listen to it and try it, don't believe it, try it. But what I say all the time, right, is if you've got a problem within the Image Clothing Company, stick around. Because deeper context brings more understanding. And boy, do we have context. We got long videos, dude. We have long videos. Long podcast episodes. Because I discuss stuff so deep. This is what I say when I say this, right? Because I have said this many times in past content under In The Image Clothing Company. Yeah, people probably have problems with us left and right because they don't know what's going on. And so all of a sudden I'm so right about it, they think. No. Right? So who's really right then? An episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. Believe it or not, don't. An episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. It's not about believing anything. It's not about anyone being right or not, or even having the possibility to. Truth is truth. We're a mechanical machine placed on a rock